go. Well, Queens, welcome to another special edition of my client interview series. I've got the lovely Emily with me today. And Emily, as we've just spoke about before we've hit record, I want you to share your experiences honestly, as openly as possible. Don't hold back. Don't say things that you think I want you to say. You're very much in recovery still. So your story has the keys to unlock someone else's chains. So welcome to the Body Love Binge.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. I never thought I would be here, so
Here
it's
you
quite
are.
exciting. Yeah.
Here you are. 10 quick fire questions to get started.
Yeah.
You
I'm very
ready?
nervous about this portion, actually.
Okay, well, anything you don't want to answer, just pass.
Yeah.
All right. Number one, if you could only eat one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh God. This is a really tricky one, actually, because as we know, my recovery was very heavy on one item, which was digestive biscuits. And I never thought I'd eat anything else other than. Um, Yeah, I'm very much a sweet tooth person, and I obviously lost that for a really long time. So any like pudding and biscuits and a cup of tea, I
Mm,
get such like joy and comfort out of that. And it's like a part of myself that I'm rediscovering. Um, so yeah, I think anything like that is
anything
definitely for
sweet.
me.
Love that. All right, number two, this might be a hard one actually. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what song would it be?
God. I don't know. Yeah, that is really hard actually. These are hard because I've always been really um like ashamed of what I like.
Mm,
So if
yeah.
someone ever asked me like on a first date, would be like, what music are you into? I'd be really, really like worried of saying something that like wasn't cool.
Yeah, interesting.
Um, so that's a really, really hard question. Oh God. Yeah, I can't pick one song.
Or a genre. Let's narrow it down a little. No, unnarrow it. Expand it. Expand it. That's it. The word.
Yeah, I like a lot of different music. And actually I again through recovery, I've started to really like enjoy music again
Yeah.
and find like the joy in music and listen to it. And yeah, so I can't pick one. I really can't.
No worries. You get
No.
to answer however you want to answer.
Yeah.
We can go with, I'm not choosing on that one.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you could have a superpower for the day, what superpower would you choose?
Ooh. Um, what superpower would I choose? I think it's probably really generic, but it would be great to fly.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think that would,
popular one.
yeah, it would. Like it's just that would be so cool.
Yeah.
To just fly above everything and yeah,
I
that's
agree. It'd be so much quicker as well. You could get
so
places.
much quicker. Yeah, and I also hate driving, so that's perfect for me.
Perfect. All right, number four, what's a spontaneous thing you've ever done?
I mean, this is pretty easy, but booking a flight to Thailand a month in advance and then just going by myself for 6 weeks is pretty spontaneous. So that's
You've literally
easy.
just got back, right?
I got back a few days ago.
So
So
it's very recent as well.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever done. Actually, another spontaneous thing is I was meant to do Thailand and Australia. And that was like I booked everything. Like I'd booked the flights to Australia. I was going to go on after a month in Thailand. And I just didn't end up going to Australia.
Wow.
And it was the most freeing,
Yeah.
spontaneous thing I've ever done. And I've never felt more alive in that moment than just listening to my gut and thinking, I know I've booked this, but I just don't want to go. And that was pretty spontaneous and it felt amazing.
Wow. Standing in your own power of choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
I love
never
that.
ever felt so good.
Oh, I can't wait to dive into this and when we have
Yeah.
a proper chat after these fire questions. I have so many questions. Right. Okay, number five, quite not relevant, but irrelevant to travel. If you were stranded on a desert island, what three items would you take if you could only take three? That's such a stereotypical question.
It's really hard because I mean it doesn't have to be like realistic, right?
No.
I would take, I mean, can if this can be like a packaged into one, I would take everything in order to make myself a bowl of porridge.
We'll allow that. That's fine.
Because I'm never happier than when I'm eating my bowl of porridge in the morning. So that would be one. Oh God, this makes me realize how much my life really revolves around porridge. Um,
That was a number one choice.
yeah.
No boyfriend or anything, you know.
I was gonna say like I need to pick my dogs, but I think they'd be really annoying on a desert island.
You might end up eating one, although it probably would never happen, right?
No, I mean I wouldn't get much from a sausage dog either, so there's no point. No, I would probably pick my boyfriend because he's very, for no other reason than he's very practical. And mm, maybe my Kindle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
really
choice.
good book. Yeah.
And you got multiple books on there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, yeah, it's you can just keep reading a book on a desert island. That's actually what I've done for probably the last 2 months of my life. So
You had a charger with you for
I
said
did.
Kindle.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I need to take a solar panel charger as
Oh,
well.
smart.
Yeah.
Love those answers. Number six, what's your favorite childhood memory that brings a smile to your face?
God. Um, that is that's tough. I think probably and we're both quite similar in this, being around horses
Hmm.
is the big one that really dominated a big portion of my childhood. And it was definitely when I was at my happiest of just being scruffy and like just, thick or thin, being around horses through torrential rain. And
Yeah.
yeah, just I think that's definitely what springs to mind the most. And it's something that I want to get back into my life, I think.
Yes, definitely do that. And my
Yeah.
best memories are from the stables.
Mm,
Always love
yeah.
that. Oh, number seven, what's the funniest or most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? If you
Oh,
don't mind sharing.
I actually don't know. And yes, most embarrassing thing. I'm not sure because I'm such a cautious person, which is probably, something to dig deeper into, that like I'm scared of falling over. Like I'm scared of the next time I'm gonna fall over. Like
Mm,
I'm petrified, I'm petrified of that embarrassment. I don't know. What is the most embarrassing thing? I don't know.
that's
I,
good that there's not one standing out to you.
there isn't one standing out to me. I mean, the one that's like sprung to my head that's obviously stuck with me is I remember as a small child, like we're talking infant school. I once walked up to another man thinking it was my dad, and I held his hand.
Yeah, I did that too. I think I shared on our coaching call. That's horror though, isn't it? As a child, when you look up and it's not your dad and you're like,
And I'm
oh my God.
holding his hand. It's like that. Isn't that weird that that's what's popped into my head from when I was about 4 years old?
Yeah,
That was obviously trauma. Um,
definitely.
I'm sure there's a million others, but I think I've blocked it out because I'm just horrified
Yeah.
by ever being embarrassing.
Okay, we'll go with that one. That is a good one, to be fair. If you were given, no, if you were given the opportunity to learn a new skill instantly, what skill would you choose?
Ooh, am I good at it?
Well, you
Like, am
can
I
do
going to be good
instantly.
at it?
Yeah, instantly you can be good at it.
Oh, I would love to be amazing at playing piano.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just think it's so cool.
Yeah, I agree. My husband, can play the piano, and he kept this a secret for years until he played it a couple of years ago. And I was like, excuse me,
Yeah.
got laid way quicker if you
Yes, exactly. I just think it's so amazing. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
jealous of people that can play piano really well. I think I'm going to try and learn. But you know, when you just know that you don't have the natural skill,
Yeah, I mean, anyone can learn, but I know what you're saying. It's like
it's going to be
language.
like
Some
twinkle,
people,
twinkle, little stars kind of vibe. Yeah,
yeah, some people are naturally talented musicians, and some people have to work a bit harder. So you can
that's
definitely
me.
give it a go.
I'll give it a go. Yeah.
All right, last two questions. Number nine. Actually, tell us, like, this is kind of three in one. Your full name, what you do as a job, and where you live.
I'm Emily, and I work as a post-production supervisor in TV, mostly factual and feature docs. And I live in Sheffield currently, which I've just moved up about 8 months ago, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, from London. You used to live in
Yes.
London.
Yeah.
And before we dive into the main juice of the podcast, what do you want people to take away from this podcast?
I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm 4 months into recovery now, like proper recovery, and I found it quite isolating, um, not being able to find much content online that of someone at my stage
Mm,
that is still struggling quite a lot with lots of different things. And I think I want, if I'm able to help at least just like one person who might be at the same stage feel less alone,
mm,
then that's the main reason why I'm doing it. Because this is very much out of my comfort zone, but I just know that I really lived on comparison, and I still do, and I find a lot of comfort in that. And you find a lot on early recovery,
yeah.
and those kind of really chaotic times. But a lot of the time, people that are 3 months in are like, I'm amazing and I'm fully recovered, or I'm like nearly there. And I haven't had that same experience. So I think I'm a little bit slower, maybe.
Mm.
So I think just providing comfort and to at least one person that might feel
Oh,
the
it'll be
same.
more than one person. And I love that you're here sharing this because you're right. I mean, not everyone who comes to share their story, as a previous client of mine, is there, wherever there is, but they're very much recovered. Usually, there's I think one other person I'm thinking of who wasn't, but you sharing where you were, where you are
Mhm.
now, where you're still going, and everything in between is going to help so many. Because you're right, let's be real about this, and that's one of the things that I do love about myself. I try to be as real as possible and
Mhm.
not fluff things up and make things look perfect, because there's no fucking thing is perfect.
That's the thing. And a big part of my brain when deciding when to do the podcast, and I actually emailed you saying this, and I questioned myself after I
Mm.
did it of, are you sure you want me on your podcast now? I actually asked that question because I was like, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to come to this really positively or energetically, because I don't feel like that sometimes. I mean, but that's another thing that the ED does, is it allows you, it is really eager for you to forget how bad things were
Yes.
and how good things are now. It just continues to morph and change into different, it just shows how bullshit it all is, which is more evidence to carry on. But yeah, I wasn't able to come and say I feel amazing and I'm so free and stuff, because each day is so different.
Yeah. And this is why this is really important to do. So let's go back to when things were worse for you.
Yeah.
So if you can remember, however many months ago it was now, what were you like when we first met? Like, what were you struggling with? What was your day-to-day life like?
Yes. So I think we started working together in November, and I had just moved up to Sheffield. Um, because I was living in London and because of the eating disorder, I was severely isolated. I'd made sure to do that. I'd been in London for 10 years, and I think, and I didn't, when we started working together, I knew I had issues surrounding food, and I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know, like, I would have never said, "Hi, Victoria, I have anorexia." And
Yeah.
like, I was very much, I don't know what's wrong with me, and I don't know how I've got here, but I know that I don't feel good,
Yeah.
and that I will do anything to try and fix it. And I was very much still in denial. Um, I, yeah, I didn't have much reason to live at that point. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I couldn't feel anything, like nothing. I was just aimlessly working through every day, just trying. It was kind of like I was in full-blown survival mode.
Mm.
Um, so that was November, and it did actually take us working together for around 2 months for the penny to drop, and
Mm.
for me to um realize that I was completely faking
Mm.
recovery, and it was just another version of disordered eating,
Yeah.
and I wasn't making any progress at all. So it was January that I decided enough's enough. I looked in the mirror, and I remember saying to myself, is this what we're doing this for? Because I can see myself, and like, when, for me, I couldn't see myself for what I actually was most of the time.
You were in denial. You didn't realize the severity of what was actually going on.
Yeah, and I was like, we've tried this, and we don't feel good, so let's try, just at least try something else.
Mm.
Like, enough's enough. And so that was the point where I just, it's the classic phrase of all in.
Yeah.
um, but for me, it was just setting up a few non-negotiables at that point. I wouldn't say I did go all in as kind of extremely as other people, but it was definitely that point where we started the work.
You went all in with your mindset. That's the most important part. I remember you messaging me being like, right, I've actually not been half-arsing recovery, because you weren't doing that. You didn't realize you were doing that. You were quote unquote trying, but you weren't being fully honest with where
I
you were at.
wasn't. No.
And it was like, yeah, it's not that bad. And all that, those stories that were keeping you stuck before. And I remember the message you sent me, and you were like, I'm just gonna go, I'm going all in, this is it now.
Mhm.
And I was like, yes, this is when things are going to start to change.
Yeah,
It was your mind that was made up that you were going to just surrender and just do this thing, and then everything started to change.
definitely. I think it's really hard because it was like a click moment, and I don't think I could have rushed it any I couldn't
No.
have done it any sooner than that. And I don't know how I got to that point, but it was, because the thing is that everyone's like, oh, I got to rock bottom, and then that was it. But I'd seen so many rock bottoms. Like, it wasn't like that. It was like, maybe I had just a good day, and I was like, I could see myself in the mirror for what
Mm.
I looked like. And it was just, yeah, it wasn't as kind of dramatic as I think everyone says. I was willing to try something new. And yeah, I'm really proud to say that I haven't gone back to, it's been slow, and I have bad days, and there's days where I do restrict still, but I'm able to check myself now, and there is still those non-negotiables in place.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that was January, and the extreme hunger started very quickly.
Before we go into extreme hunger, can you share what your non-negotiables were? Because I think that will help people if you can remember them.
Um, I mean, prior to going all in, I did do like the fear food jar
Yeah.
thing. You know how a lot of people like write down all of the foods that they're scared of, and then they'll like pick one out a day and they'll do that. And I did the jar, and I don't know if you remember, but I never picked anything out of it.
Mm.
And the things that I did pick out of it, I was like, but I don't want that.
Mm.
I don't like, so I'm not, I don't know, because obviously the ED makes you not want it. So the non-negotiable was if a certain food comes into my head, that's what I need to eat. Even if, and there's a lot of, and you know what it's like of you'll have that food in front of you and then all of a sudden you're not hungry and the hunger completely goes. But like it was, so I really had to depend on my mental hunger and understanding that that is hunger. That was a big thing for me. So
Yeah.
for the first bit, it was very much the non-negotiables were like, if you think about food, you need to eat, even if it's just like one bite.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the big thing in that was understanding the science. That was a big click moment of
Yeah.
removing my emotions from it, and just while I couldn't really manage my emotions and just basing it all on the science. So that really helped my non-negotiables. Eating three
Mm.
meal no, because I need to be honest, I didn't eat 3 meals a day in my or like extreme hunger period, because the feasting was so intense that there were days that I couldn't eat dinner, like a kind of dinner how you see dinner, like a plate of food. I would eat 5 huge packets of digestives, and I wouldn't eat dinner because I was calm. My
Mm.
brain felt calm because that's what I wanted to eat. But the
Yeah.
non-negotiable was I must have my normal breakfast
Yeah.
the next day, because you do have a hangover from
Yeah.
that feasting. And it
Yeah.
was like I didn't want breakfast.
Mm.
My body was saying no, but it was that like, and then I would feel so good for having the breakfast. So yeah, they're the ones that spring to mind. And a month into us being properly into recovery, I stopped exercise. So
Yeah, that was a
that
big
was
one.
another non-negotiable of, it's not even up for
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
We're not moving.
Yeah. And also I remember a few photos going back and forth around your lunches because you had like a big fear of like carbs. If you'd had carbs at breakfast and you might have carbs at dinner, then it's you can't have them at lunch. And we started questioning that. And then you started bringing them into the picture as well.
Yeah, lunch is something that I'm still really, I don't, I struggle with lunch still. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a big focus, but it's good to know that I struggled with lunch because that was the meal that I restricted the most. So it makes sense. Like I'm able to add that rational
Yeah.
brain into it. But yeah, the making sure that I have carbs with every meal and that's okay. And just the non-negotiable of I'm craving this thing and that's okay,
Mm.
because I'm allowed to have nice things
Yeah, because there's a worthiness.
multiple times a day.
Yeah, there's that worthiness piece that's tied into all of it, isn't it? It's like, okay, I'm noticing I'm craving that, but then there's a part of me that doesn't feel worthy or having earned having this thing. So
Yeah,
you talk to that, like, has that improved? Do you feel like you're more deserving of actually having what you want?
definitely. It's the thing is within all of this, I have to choose that still every day. I
Yes.
have to wake up and choose to be my own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come naturally still, but I'm able to do it.
Mm.
Um, and the non-negotiable comes into that still today of, so I've not had lunch yet, but I know that I want a wrap and I might have some crisps on the side. Um, Now that doesn't feel good right now,
Mm-hmm.
but the non-negotiable is I'm going to have that,
Yes.
and I can't control that outcome. that's what I'm going to have.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good right now, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because I'm going to have it. So I can't change that. And I think that's what I'm still working on every day.
Yeah. And that
Um,
will change over time. The more you just do
yeah,
exactly what you're doing, you'll start to notice that the not feeling good will just go to neutrality. And
yeah,
neutrality might go to, oh, I'm really looking forward to having a wrap and crisp. So it will change over time if you just keep doing what you're doing.
definitely. Oh, and also just one last non-negotiable is if I'm gonna make a recipe of something, I'm not allowed to change a single
Mhm.
step of that recipe. If I'm going to change something, it's me adding something in that I love. But
Mm.
there's no chopping and changing. Also ordering in a restaurant, I can't change how the dish comes.
Great one. So you wouldn't
Yeah,
be allowed to, I'm going to swap my chips for a salad. You're like, nope,
exactly.
if it comes with chips, I'm having the chips.
Yeah, yeah. And that is really tough.
Yeah.
That's really tough. But yeah, I mean, like for instance, in Thailand, I remember there was one morning where like something was coming with pineapple on it, and I was like, that sounds disgusting, but I want everything else. But I was like, instead of pineapple, can I have banana?
Mm.
And that's actually quite big for me because I was petrified of bananas.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. By the way,
So
what was the dish? Because I'm a pineapple lover. I'm a pineapple on pizza, pineapple in sweet and sour. And then I'm like, ooh, banana in replace of that. What was it? I'm just randomly curious.
it was a chia seed pudding
Yeah.
in the morning. I don't know why pineapple just didn't say, yeah, it was chia seed pudding with like loads of nuts and
Oh yeah, that
like
wouldn't be
it,
right.
yeah, it just like that needs banana and like honey. I was like, that
Yes.
needs banana.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
But the fact that I had like I asked for banana on something that had granola and
Yeah.
nuts and like it's just yeah, that's when I think back and I'm like, I'm so proud of myself that I did that.
So proud because I remember when you used to have like your regimented portion of granola, but it had to be a particular brand in a particular but like in a particular way. And then now you can go to Thailand and just like order something with granola and swap pineapple for banana. That's like massive growth.
I had granola every single day, pretty much in Thailand. And one of our first things before I went all in with me and you was eat granola.
Yes.
And I think at the start it was like make my own granola, but
Yeah.
that was still very disordered
Yes, of
because I
course.
was controlling what was going into it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think I have like three different granolas from Sainsbury's in my cupboard, and I would have convinced myself that I was going to eat all of those boxes if I was to have them in the house. So yeah, it's quite emotional thinking because I never thought I'd get to this point.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone says that, don't they?
It's
And I'm
true
saying
though.
it. It's crazy. I'm saying it.
It's true because like you said in your introduction, the eating disorder or the anxiety, whatever you want to call it, the way your brain was wired, which you're working through to wire in a different way, which you've come so far with, it doesn't allow you to see, actually, I've come so far. All it allows you to see is I've not done that good enough and I can do that better and this is still
Yeah.
hard. And that's where you end up living from if you're not careful and conscious to be like, actually, I'm going to list all the things that I'm doing that are more free compared to 4 months
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. And a big thing was I was really scared of my own, of me, of
Yeah.
was so, I just, so for instance, I would journal and I would be so scared to read that back.
Mm,
And that's really sad because I was just obviously scared of my own opinion and my own feelings.
yeah.
And now, and I journaled every day when I was in Thailand. And on the way home or on my last morning, I actually read my journal back. And I
Wow.
wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have completely avoided how I would have felt. I would have been embarrassed by my own words,
Mm,
even if it's just me reading them.
yeah.
Found them really like shameful. Um, do you remember I said that I was scared of sending voice notes
Yeah. You had
because I
so
was
much
scared
shame
of
around
hearing my
it.
own voice.
Yeah.
And it through Thailand, because I was out there by myself, I spoke to myself so just talking to myself. And that was so, but then it's the conscious thing of me talking to myself and then thinking, that's so cool that I've just
Yeah.
spoken to myself.
Yeah.
That you have to be conscious, like you have to be
Uh,
really aware of the fact that you would have never been able to do that even a month ago.
Yeah.
So when it goes back to me saying like it's a choice every day.
Yes. And that's the empowerment, isn't it? Because sometimes it's nice for the choice to be made for you, for it to just happen easy. But
Mhm.
then we don't want the responsibility of everything being a choice, but it is. We
Mhm.
all have choices, and that's what life's all about. And choices involves taking responsibility for what we want.
Mhm. And
And
not being ashamed
yeah,
of you wanting that thing.
definitely allowing yourself to have that desire and then receiving what
Yeah.
you say you want. Receiving is a huge part of it, which is linked to worthiness.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about Thailand, but before I ask you those, can you speak a bit about the extreme hunger? Because that's a big deal for eating disorder recovery, right? And every single person that I'm coaching through extreme hunger right now, they're saying the same thing, of course, like nobody's can be as bad as mine. Like nobody can be eating this much. And I'm like, trust me, you are not alone. So don't be afraid to go into quantities because I think it will be helpful for people
Yes.
to, because some people think extreme hunger is like one big chocolate bar, and I'm like, fuck no, no.
All I wanted from you were your quantities.
Yes, yeah,
I needed a list from you
yeah,
of a day in extreme hunger of what you went through.
mhm,
You saying I was the exact same
mhm,
isn't like that wasn't enough.
yeah,
I needed evidence.
yeah,
It's really, so I really want to get this right. Um, the extreme hunger was it's something that I've never experienced before ever. It was a itchiness of it was like entering a different realm of your brain when it started. And you're so petrified physically, but the more that you ate, the calmer
mm,
the noise was in your head. And that's the complete opposite of what the ED says before the extreme hunger
mm,
occurs. Um, so you really do need to just eat through it. But it's so I never ever want to downplay it or I actually don't I'm still not at the point where I find it comical
mm,
because it was so physically painful.
yeah,
I was in so much physical and emotional pain that, yeah, but for me, I had, so I had orthorexia. So most kind of bad, and I'm quotation marking, foods were completely out of bounds for years for me. So that's naturally the food that I went to, and it's the food that I used to absolutely adore, which was biscuits and cake. So I would say a normal day of extreme hunger was um, my porridge and a lunch, and it would usually occur after lunch because that was the time of day that I'd really struggle after lunch and before dinner, and that was like when I was at my biggest survival time of we need to try and make it to dinner, I need to distract myself. So that's when I would do the most of exercise. That's when I would go to sleep to
yeah,
avoid eating.
mhm,
I needed to be unconscious to avoid
yeah,
eating.
yeah,
um, so I would say I would buy, I think in general, one packet of, and we're talking like the family sized. So like there's different packets of digestive sizes. Mine would be the family size. I'd buy one packet of milk chocolate digestives, one packet of dark chocolate digestives, one packet of the Maryland cookie
Oh yeah, they're my
the
favorite.
small ones.
Yeah.
And it's like bourbons, custard creams, and I think I would get a packet of like hobnobs as well, like a milk chocolate hobnob. And I think every day, and it was mostly every other day for me, of extreme hunger where it was really intense, I would have all of that
Yeah.
in one sitting. It wasn't, I'm going to go back. And like you remember I started off with one of each on a plate.
Yeah.
But
Good luck with
then,
that with extreme hunger.
and I would walk from my bedroom into the kitchen and I would keep putting one of each on a plate. And then I would have done about 4 trips and I'd be like, we just need to take the biscuit tin into bed.
Yes. Yes.
And I would have the biscuit tin like here. Like it was like I was hugging the biscuit tin and I ate the whole thing, which contained everything that I've just listed. And I would, my heart would be pounding,
Mm.
absolutely pounding. And the sweat would be dripping off me. And my face would be so red. And obviously my stomach was out here. So I would be having all of these really awful physical reactions. But within that, I felt so calm.
Yeah.
I read back my journal um, before we had this conversation, and I found this one thing, and it said,
Please share.
I'm getting sick of eating a whole packet of digestives every day, but they seem to be the only thing that calms the panic in my brain. After I've eaten them, there is no other way to explain it other than a baby after it's had its warm milk. My
Mm.
body feels calm, even though my brain is screaming at me. I feel my cheeks heat up and feel soothed by the fact that it's the sign my metabolism is back to working hard. I feel calm in my tiredness in that moment because I know my body is busy elsewhere, giving that energy to all the organs I've continuously damaged over the last 3 years. I
Mm.
can see my body is doing the work as everyone told me it would, but I know that I need to match it with the work in my brain. It can't all be for nothing. So I'm going to sit in the stillness of no exercise and ask myself why I'm so scared of myself with the thoughts that come in after every digestive.
Mm.
It's okay because we will walk to the shops tomorrow instead of driving, or it's okay, you can walk the dogs for 20 minutes longer than you usually would. I can now reply with confidence saying, no, we won't. And I've never been able to reply to that before. It doesn't take the fear away, but if I'm eating all this food, it has to be for something better. It can't fail. And I know deep down, if I react to my food intake with exercise, it's not going to work.
Wow, that is so powerful and so touching. So
Yeah.
touching.
And that was just one of the days of my extreme hunger. So I think my main message to someone going through it is, firstly, you will be amazed of your personality that you've lost, because you're so convinced right now that your personality is that of you in an eating disorder. But
Yes.
I think it was 2 weeks into my extreme hunger, I laughed and I was shocked by the noise that came out of me because
Yeah.
it wasn't a performative laugh
Mm.
laced with exhaustion
Yeah.
and actually just laughing to make that other person feel better in the interaction. It was like my laugh
Yeah.
that I hadn't heard for years.
Mm.
It was like something from the gut. And you're I think the one thing that I was so shocked at in extreme hunger is that your brain it doesn't have the energy to think, to fight the ED.
Yeah.
So every time you have extreme hunger, just know that your personality will come back, and it's amazing when it does.
Mm.
Everything that the ED is saying to you is not true, because on some of my worst extreme hunger days, I got up and I went out of the house even though all I wanted to do was hide away. And actually they were some of the best social interactions I've ever had, even though my stomach, like I wanted to hide my stomach and stuff, but there was a certain level of calm because I wasn't there thinking about that I was starving.
Yeah, you were
And
actually feeding yourself, even though you had all that fear and all that discomfort. I want to say that the only way to the other side of extreme hunger is through. There's literally no shortcut.
just have to keep eating because your brain can't get over the eating disorder. It can't until you feed it.
Yes.
It's in the extreme hunger, you're talking 80% ED for me, 20% M.
Mm.
And it's just like, if you look at it like that, then you're just getting yourself back. It's very, very slowly, one biscuit at a time for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so like, again, it's just, I went to the shop as soon as I landed from Thailand and I bought all that list that I've just given to you of biscuits. They are in my cupboard right now, and they've been in my cupboard for 3 days, and I've had a few each day. And I never, and by the way, just for context, when I flew to Thailand 7 weeks ago, I was still in extreme hunger
Yes.
before I left.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was coming back to. I didn't know if I was going to come back into extreme hunger, or that I was going to have extreme hunger in Thailand. Like, so this is still very, very fresh in my mind.
Yeah. And now would you say, I mean, it's really hard to use the word normal because what does that even mean? But in Thailand and then now, since you've got back, would you say you eat like a quote unquote normal person?
So do you remember, so broccoli was like one of my favorite foods before I was in recovery. I loved broccoli. And I actually read back in my, I was like, broccoli's making me gag. Like
Wow.
retching at the idea of broccoli when I was in extreme hunger. And that was so tough.
Mm.
Of It's going against everything you thought you knew about yourself.
Yeah.
How awful is that?
Yeah. Because you don't
It's
know who the hell you are.
no. And it's like, I'm so ashamed of, and again, another big thing of extreme hunger for me was when I did go to those social events, I could hear my footsteps.
Yes, I remember you saying like just taking up space was not okay for you.
I
Just
could hear,
being
so
there.
I remember being in the cinema lobby, and I could hear me walking as if I was so heavy on the ground. And that's so nasty. But just say to yourself in those moments, that is so nasty.
Mm.
What, like that feeling. And I don't deserve to feel like that. And that is actually really sad. That's a big thing that I said to myself in extreme hunger. This is really sad that I got to this point,
Mm.
that I feel this way. And I didn't, I wasn't able to give myself compassion. I was so embarrassed of myself. And so now I'm so compassionate to myself. And that's my big thing. If I have a thought, I will say that I'm really sad for myself
Mm.
that I have had that thought. And I
Mm.
would never have been able to do that before. I would have completely blocked out that sadness. It would be like, grow up, like get a grip kind of
Yeah.
thing. But now I'm like, no, that is really sad. And I'm able to cry because
Yes.
I couldn't cry before. Crying wasn't an option. I was so immensely sad and I didn't really see a place for myself on planet Earth. But there was no crying about that. It was just like, well, that's just how I am.
Mm.
But now I cry a lot. I cry a lot.
I love crying. It feels so
Yeah.
good afterwards, right? And
Yeah, it
during.
really does. So I'm back eating broccoli in a
Oh,
very
isn't that
nice
interesting? Because your body
way.
through the extreme hunger was like, bitch, we need sugar, we need carbs. We don't need to waste our time with fibrous vegetables right now. This is
I
what we need.
never saw the day. I never ever saw the day. I thought I was going to be eating digestive biscuits every single day in this manner until the day I die.
Yeah.
But that's the ED telling you that it's never going to stop, and that now you've started, you're never going to stop. You're completely out of control. Um, I probably could eat a whole I want to be really honest. I probably could eat a whole tin of digestives today. And I think that that's me being really vulnerable of yeah, me, it's really tricky. And this is what I mean by it's just not linear. Like
Yeah.
maybe I could spend the day eating digestives, but I haven't really thought about that until I've just said it out loud. So it does become a little bit blurry, but
Feel the desire to like you used to.
it's extreme hunger is a completely different desire of it. It's like it hurts
Mm.
unless you feed that hunger.
Yeah.
It's entering into like a different realm of hunger. And it's really scary. So yeah, I'm eating really normally. And the other day was a really big moment because I went to my mum's and my parents' house, and that was a really big trigger for me in that my parents' house was always filled with really nice food. So
Mm.
I was always really scared of that environment because I'd be like out of control. Like I'm exposing. And another thing is when you have like, orthorexia is you're genuinely fearful of being around that food. It's a fear, like you're shaking.
Yeah.
Um, and I had had my porridge in the morning and then I drove to my parents' house and they had a big tub of Bircham muesli
Oh
in the
yeah.
fridge, like a big tub. I have no idea what was in it. And I got the tub out of the fridge and I got a spoon and I was just eating it out of the tub.
Wow.
That action in itself is mental to me. That was the second time me eating oats
Yeah.
in the day.
Yeah.
So I had that's the first time I've ever done that.
Wow.
I didn't portion it out for myself.
Yeah.
I still to this day have no idea what was in that tub. And I ate until I didn't want to eat it anymore.
Wow. That is true freedom and intuition, just trusting and connecting to your body and what you want.
But I did feel really anxious after. And I think that's the really important thing to say in that moment of I did that action. How incredible was that action? But
Incredible.
it's not to say that I didn't feel terrible after.
Yes.
But it was so sunny outside and I still went outside and I still like put my shorts really low because I wanted to get a tan on, like I wanted to keep my tan going on my tummy. And my tummy was hanging out after I'd just eaten who knows how much of it. So it's like constantly showing my anxiety that we're still gonna, it goes back to the non-negotiables. If I'm still gonna just live my life normally.
Yes.
And I do feel really anxious and I do feel really rubbish right now, but it will pass.
Mm.
And it will all pass. Just tell yourself that it will pass. And but I have to do those things still every day. And I'm not in extreme hunger anymore, but it does pass, I promise.
It does. And self-compassion, and you've mentioned it, is a big one. And you didn't know how to be compassionate to yourself. And through support, it was just practicing, wasn't it? It was just literally practicing until it becomes your new normal.
Yeah. And I'm still going, it's still a work in progress. It
Mm.
really is. Every meal is still a work in progress, but you go back to your non-negotiables of I'm
Yes.
going to eat this despite what my brain is telling me,
Yeah.
and just be nice to yourself,
It's
which is something
amazing.
that none of us really are able to do at some point.
Yeah. And so, what time are we on? Oh, wow, it flies.
Oh God.
What would you say the biggest thing is that you've learned throughout this entire process and the journey that you're still on?
I have gotten to know myself for the first time in my entire life.
Mm.
I spent my whole life from independence at 18, when I moved out, of ensuring that my life looked perfect,
Mm.
ensuring that people were proud of me and that my mum and dad had something to talk about to their friends. And I had the 2 dogs and I had my flat in London and my job and making sure I got a promotion every 6 months. And through all of that, I never, ever, I was so ashamed of myself.
Mm.
Genuinely, I was so ashamed of my own thoughts. And I actually really like spending time with myself now. And that's not a ED, isolation, introvert. It's getting to know myself and being okay with myself. And yeah, and just knowing that I'm allowed to feel different every day
Mm.
and I'm not a robot and I'm not, I don't have to eat the same things every day and things don't have to be controlled. I don't have OCD anymore, which is
That's worth
another
speaking to,
horrible thing.
because that
Yeah,
was, yeah, if you want to speak to that just a little bit, because
really
that's so
quickly.
common. Yeah.
I had really bad OCD from the ED, and that, like, for instance, I had to heat up my porridge in the microwave in 30-second increments, and I had to stir it a certain amount of times
Mm.
before I put it back in for another 30 seconds. And then while I was doing that, I was making my boyfriend's porridge on the stove and letting it boil over and stuff. But my bowl needed to be in the like so, and like hoovering 4 times a day. And yeah, the OCD was really bad. And I don't have any of that anymore. Every day looks different and I'm still learning that. But I'm just learning things about myself and um that I'm allowed to like what I like and that's not embarrassing. I will find out what my favorite song is one day, I'm sure. I just don't know yet. And it's rediscovering yourself, and just remembering bits of your personality that you lost, thinking that the ED was you maturing. Oh,
Yeah.
well, this is just me now because I'm maturing. I'm getting near to my 30s and things aren't as fun in life. And you do, and that's how it does it. But
Hmm.
actually, I have fun now. And another non-negotiable is if someone invites me somewhere, I have to say yes. I was only allowed to have one social plan a week before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and there was a lot of preparation and a lot of debriefing with myself via vigorous exercise before.
Before.
So yeah, it's just knowing that I'm always going to be okay because I have myself.
Mm.
I tell myself before I went onto this call with you, I said outside to myself, it's going to be okay.
Oh, I love that. And it's okay. I mean, you have given so much, and I'm so grateful for you sharing, Emily. Would you suggest that listeners write non-negotiables for themselves? Because they sounded really powerful for you.
Yeah, definitely. And hold yourself accountable to them. It took time, and just know that it takes time and it's not black and white. Like some days you can do your non-negotiables. Just stop, don't give yourself such a hard time if some days you can't meet all of those non-negotiables because it will come.
Yes.
And it actually happens while you don't even notice it happens. It's
Mm.
only now where, like, literally on this call that I'm doing a lot of reflection of, wow, that's incredible that I'm able to sit here and say, these are my non-negotiables. And just, you're doing the best that you can every day. And if you meet one of those non-negotiables, then great. But just honestly, just remember, like, just stay consistent.
Yeah, that's really key.
That's all you can do is just stay consistent with your meals and the rest will come. And it doesn't have to, it will come naturally
Mm.
through that. Food is the answer. It's just, and you'll get to know yourself and it will get easier.
Mm. Oh, Emily, wow. Are you happy for me to put your Instagram or Facebook, and it's okay if not, for if people want to reach out, ask you
Oh my God,
questions?
if anyone wants to, my Instagram is on private, but I think you can still message me.
I think you can. It will just end up in your request.
Yeah, and I'll get
Or
that. I'll get that. I honestly, all I want to do is speak private. I would be more than happy to speak privately about anyone going through extreme hunger. Um, on it like that. I think that would give me a lot of help in my recovery as well as theirs. Like we're in it together.
Yeah, that's why I started doing what I do now. When I was first of all sharing, it was helping me just as much as it was helping other people.
I
It
said
really
that
is a
to you, didn't
win-win.
I? I said
Yeah.
like I don't know how you do it because yeah, I actually don't know how you do it. I don't. Yeah, it's really tough like bringing all of it up again, but
Mm.
it's actually really important to not run away from it. It was a big
Yeah.
part of both of our lives, and
Yes.
it will be a big part of my identity, I'm sure, for a long time to come. But and that's okay. And I think I'm coming to. I remember before Thailand, I said I don't want to ever think about this again.
Yeah.
But actually, I need to
Avoidance.
not be like that. It's
Yeah.
gotten to the place that I am now, which is
Owning your story, like you don't
exactly.
have to be that story, but it's helped you mold into the woman you are today. So be great. You don't have to, but I'm grateful for my story, and I'll never stop sharing because it helps other people and it reminds me how far I've come and how proud I
Yeah.
am of myself. And I invite, of course, you to do the same. This is going to go out to, I think, 200,000 listeners that we currently have. So I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for you sharing, Emily.
And we
If
didn't talk about the fear of weight gain, but if anyone wants to talk to me about that as well, I
You can come on
would
for part two. So if you want Emily to come
happily.
and talk specifically about the fear of weight gain, because that's obviously a big thing, let us know. Like comment on YouTube or on the podcast, and I will bring her back on if you want to hear about her experience with weight gain. So Emily, is there any last words, anything that I've not perhaps asked you that you did want to share?
There's so much.
You need to come on for part two
There's so
anyway.
much. Yeah, there is honestly so much. Uh, None of it is a straight line, none of it's straightforward. Everything has multiple different opinions and angles, and depending on your mood that day. So yeah, I think there's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have you back on, and I really appreciate you sharing so openly and honestly because, like I said, it's going to help so many people. And it's wonderful to hear you reflect as well. We've not spoke for a while, and to see you first of all absolutely glowing and genuinely smiling so much, it just
Yeah.
fills my heart. And to hear you reflect, and actually, I think you're further along than you think you are, perhaps.
Maybe I give myself a hard time, but yeah, there's so much to talk about. Like, yeah, I'm back with my boyfriend that I never thought I was going to be able to see again because I thought he would reject me for my bigger body, and like that's just I want to talk about all of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to have you on either way. So you can still comment, but having Emily back on either way. So thank you so much,
Yeah,
Emily. And
thank you.
to our listeners, much love, and we'll see you next week. Mwah.